Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Kris. This was requested. A CIA agent's stunning confession before his death, spies, hoods, and the hidden elite. DC. The Patsy. This has to be. The Patsy. See, I keep thinking JFK assassination. Anyways, this is going to be another 20-ish minute movie. Thumbs up, subscribe, donate to the thanks through the thanks button, donate to the channel through the thanks button. How about that? Request a video, sponsoring the video, still request without video.
This guy and was probably Lee Harvey Oswald's control.
Twombly's letter to Chauncey Holt, a.k.a. Jack Moon, ended with this instruction. The customer wants all the original artwork destroyed when the job is completed.
Okay, I guess I knocked it backwards. My fault.
It bothered me from day one was the vilification of Lee Harvey Oswald, because I know that Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy. I know that he was executed just the same as everyone else.
Chauncey is absolutely convinced that Oswald was framed.
Although my revelations probably won't add too much to what's already been said, but all I wanted to do was to, I felt that the American people are entitled to know.
The editing for the next portion of the Holt interview will be minimal. You will hear Chauncey Holt's words as he spoke them. He's talking about his New Orleans assignment. It's late spring, 1963.
It turned out that this work was for Lee Harvey Oswald. We did documentation, identity documents in the name of Lee Harvey Oswald, Lee Henry Oswald, Leon Osborne, and Alec Hyde.
You know that feeling that your microphone isn't recording, so you have to do a quick check? I just had that. Okay.
Alex Heidel. We weren't sure at the time who were actually doing it, who this person was, for the simple reason that the same picture that appeared on Lee Harvey Oswald also appeared on Leon Osborne. So we didn't know whether this guy was actually Leon Osborne or that, or he might have been neither. So we didn't know exactly who this was. So we delivered some of this documentation was redoing some other documentation that someone else had done, and it was very amateurish and wouldn't pass muster. If you looked at it very closely, you'd know it was a forgery. So it was merely cleaning it up. Some of it was new. One of the new things that we did for him was to show a card showing that Lee Harvey Oswald was a member of the Communist Party. Well, that presented a little problem for us because I didn't even know what that card looked like, and we hunted and hunted and hunted trying to find what it looked like, and we were finally told by experts that, hey, those communists don't carry any cards, but they wanted it, so we just had to wing it and make them a nice looking card that showed him a member of the Communist Party. So we completed that in May or June. In August, we made a trip to New Orleans to deliver some guns and so forth. I had a note. We had a note from George Reynolds. George Reynolds operated 4 proprietary interests at Morgan City, Louisiana, and he relayed. He was a high-level apparently he operated a high level because a lot of instructions came from him and a lot of money came from him. A lot of money came from his organization direct to whomever I said send it to. So he worked at a high level. Besides, he was extremely well connected to the intelligence community. His sister was married to Frank Belcher, who was one of the most powerful figures, legal figures in California. Now, Frank Belcher was was partners with Joe Ball, not actually partners in their law firm. They had separate law firms, but they operated together.
Joe Ball, like Belcher, was an influential legal figure. He was president of the California State Bar and gained national exposure as a senior counsel to the Warren Commission. According to Chauncey, both Belcher and Ball were part of an interlocked web with far-reaching connections. Chauncey elaborates further about this shadowy network.
George Reynolds had a brother whose name was Bob Reynolds. He was chief of station at J.M. Wave, and he was a high-level CIA individual, employee. Besides, Frank Belcher was related to J.A. Belcher of J.A. Belcher Oil Company. They had old-time oil money from Texas. He also was known to be a CIA asset. It was well known, and so all these things were working together. So I get a letter from George Reynolds telling me that he and Leroy Young, who happened to be his second in command, he was a weapons expert, helicopter pilot, soldier of fortune type, and that they were going to be in New Orleans for about a 20-day period, and I was going to New Orleans to deliver some guns to Louis McWillie, who was a high-level high-level organized crime figure. All these people, of course, were connected to the CIA. CIA knew what was going on. So I was going to deliver these guns over there. So while I was there, and I had some stuff for Guy Bannister, he sent me this note stating he was going to be there and that he was going to be at the LaSalle Hotel and to meet a guy by the name of Thomas Eli Davis. Thomas Davis, he was another one of those soldier of fortune types that worked for the CIA. So while we was over there on the 9th day of August in '63, I had never seen Oswald. So I was down talking to Guy Bannister, and he said, well, Oswald was over on the next street handing out leaflets. So why don't I go over and take a look at him? I don't have to introduce myself, but go and at least I'd see him. So I went over, and it turned out that Lee Harvey Oswald and a guy named Carlos Bringuier got into a shoving match there, and they both ended up getting arrested, actually for nothing really. So I went back over, and Guy Bannister said,
to pay a fine of $10 or serve 10 days in jail? Stop.
well, I guess we should go down and get Oswald, bail him out, and so forth. But before we could bail him out, Oswald's uncle, Dutch Moretz, worked for Carlos Marcello. So they sent a guy down to get him out of jail. He was fine.
Sorry, Jackson hit my light and popped that up. Very annoying.
And that was on a Friday, and on Monday he was Superior Night Court. I went down to Night Court to just see what was going on, and they gave and talked to him. And I talked to him for a while, and they gave gave him a little fine, and he left.
That was your first
That was the first time I saw Oswald.
in Night Court.
Yeah, that's first. Well, I saw him, but the first time I introduced myself to him, went up and said who I was and so forth, and talked to him for a while. And he was an interesting kid to talk to. He'd just turned 24. Well, he wasn't even 24 then. He was 23 then. He didn't turn 24 until October. But we had an interesting little talk, and then on Friday, he was back in front of the Trade Mart handing out leaflets again. I happened to be in the Trade Mart talking to a guy by the name of Lloyd Cobb. Lloyd Cobb, they called him the Potato Man because he owned 8,000 acres of potatoes up around Jackson, Louisiana. He was as far right-wing as you can get, and he was very, very high up. Those guys at the Trade Mart, John Lawrence may have been the president of the Trade Mart, and Clay Shaw may have been the director, but they all took their orders from Lloyd Cobb. So I went in, and just as I came out of the building, I look, and there's a television camera there taking pictures of WSDU was there taking pictures of this little handing out these pamphlets. Well, I just ducked down the side, and I thought I wasn't caught on film, but it turned out that I was.
A television news crew was outside the International Trade Mart and captured on film Oswald passing out Fair Play for Cuba protest leaflets. Transferred to stills, it clearly shows Oswald at work. From a different angle, you see bystanders reading the leaflets. In this still taken from the film, Oswald's head is turned away from the camera. And from another still, Oswald's head is turned away from the camera. And from another still, Chauncey, in sunglasses, is seen exiting the Trade Mart building. He's on the far right. On Chauncey's left, Leroy Young, George Reynolds' assistant.
Well, all this stuff really concerned Philip Twombly.
Twombly resolved the problem of Chauncey being identified on that news film with the help of New Orleans FBI agent Warren DeBruze. The disinformation campaign worked, as Twombly wrote Chauncey. Dear Jack, the Potato Man advised our distributor in New Orleans that Warren has submitted a report and has positively identified the man coming out of the Trade Mart as the public relations man, not Chauncey. Again, the distributor in New Orleans was Guy Bannister.
Lloyd Cobb was able to pull all these strings and had them misidentified by employees of the Trade Mart that he was their boss, and so we managed to extricate ourselves from that possibility. I couldn't understand is why that they were so worried about it, and why that they were doing so much with it. They had so much interest in Oswald. Oswald was an interesting kid, but to try to say that they were trying to separate us from the Fair Play for Cuba act and didn't want us involved and so forth, indicated clearly to me, didn't then, but later on, I got the idea as, hey, this guy was important to them, and later on, I understood why, because they undoubtedly had other plans for him, and the fact that this inquiry was initiated by Philip Twombly indicated to me that Twombly was cognizant of these plans that were in the works.
About the same time of the New Orleans episode with Oswald, Chauncey received an unusual order from a Texas gun dealer.
in the summer of 1963, we received an order, I guess you'd call it an order, or a request from a gunsmith in Dallas by the name of John T. Mason, spelled with an E, and asking us to buy all the existing models of the Mannlicher Carcano rifle. The Mannlicher Carcano was an Italian-made military rifle, probably the poorest made military rifle that was ever designed. They called it the Mannlicher. The name of Mannlicher shouldn't even been on it. Mannlicher was a great Austrian gunmaker, but the only thing that he had anything to do with the Mannlicher Carcano was that he designed the magazine. But they said, buy these existing, buy these guns. They had us doing a lot of chronograph work on them, measuring muzzle velocity and that sort of thing, using all kinds of loads, underloading, overloading, and so forth. And that's a normal sort of thing. We bought these rifles from Sam Cummins, who had another CIA front over on at Western Surplus out on Arroyo Seca in Pasadena. We bought these things for $3 a piece. This would give you an idea what kind of a gun these were. So you'd be better off with a bow and arrow. So then they sent us a bunch of the Mannlicher. The one particular Carcano shot a 6.5 millimeter used bullet, and we received a bunch of 6.5 Mannlicher Carcano bullets. At first glance, if you look at them at first glance, you think that they're unfired, that they're new bullets just cast. But if you examine them very carefully, you could see that they had been fired at least once, and they had been fired into either water or a wadding or something, so they didn't get just formed, you know, formed out of shape, distorted, or whatever you want to call it. Then they asked us to load a number of these into a 264 Remington case. 264 and 6.5 are the same. But however, the Remington, I mean, you can use that from a quality sniper's rifle, such as a Remington 700 on one of those. I mean, instead of sticking with that cheap Carcano. So it's obviously these people who do this have something in mind. So we loaded a lot of those cases. We also loaded cases for them, what they call Mexican loads. Mexican loads are, you take, in this case, we took a 308 case and we necked it down so that it would take the 6.5, and then we put the 6.5 in it, and of course this would could be fired from a 308. And there's a lot of good 308s around. As a matter of fact, the M14, which was the top flight military rifle at that time, used the 308. However, the only drawback in that, of course, is the fact of firing that small projectile out of a lot. You don't know where the hell it's going. I mean, you certainly know you're going to deliver it somewhere, but you can't be sure of hitting anything. So it's apparent that Mason's they've got something going there. So we produced all that stuff and delivered it to him in the summer of 1963.
ahead and take it back. Right there. Since that was about a 20, well, it was around there, but we're doing 20 minutes or so. I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. Be back with part 4. I don't have, and I've said this the last one, I don't have anything to add because I don't know much about the JFK assassination in terms of who it could be, who it wasn't. I could be easily swayed either way. With him telling the full names of people, that makes me believe it more. Instead of, this guy Roy, well, we call him Roy. He was a CIA operative and blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, Andy Hammersville, CIA operative, and then there's a picture. And you're like, okay. So I don't know if he's telling the truth, but it is very interesting. Is it believable? I could be swayed. I could watch something right after this and then be swayed the other way. I don't have my footing on any of this. I'm slipping and sliding in any which direction. So we're going to end this here. We'll be back with part 4. But until then, I'm going to take up to have a good day. Have a good night.